Hello, my name's Richard, and you're listening to We're Not Wizards. Tonight's show is a work in progress show, and it's going to be called Nothing Grim Up North, Just Greenbrier Games. Now, I know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that, because joining me this evening is a gentleman by the name of Stephen S Gibson. So, good evening, Stephen.
Good evening yourself.
How are you doing? Are you well?
I'm great, thank you.
Good
for
stuff.
asking, having me on.
Yeah, because the reason I've got you on, a couple of reasons. You're all-round good egg and art director of Greenbrier Games.
Yeah.
Greenbrier Games are currently running a campaign for the extension to the very much well-received Grimslinger game that was kickstarted a little while ago. So we're going to have a chat about that, obviously, because people will probably like to know a little bit more about what the Kickstarter campaign's all about. But before we do that, we want to find out a little bit about the man behind the game as well. So, so it's not that evil, and no thumb screws will be involved. But for people that haven't listened to the show before, the reason that we do this is quite simply because there's not enough podcasts out there about board games. I've checked. There's definitely not. You do not have to check. And the second reason that we're doing this is because there's not enough podcasts about board games where you get to speak to the art people. There's designers, there's everybody else, and I thought I like to do a little bit of art. I'm obviously not as good as what the type of magic that Stephen's producing, but I do like to draw on occasion. But what we do at We're Not Wizards is we like to have a little bit of a trek into the past. We have a little chin wag about the present before we look off into the future. So, first of all, Stephen, again, thank you very much for coming on. It's very short notice as well, and you're obviously very busy being in the middle of this, being in the middle of the Kickstarter campaign, which appears to be running quite well.
Yeah, everything's going just peachy. So, thank you.
So how did you get involved in the hobby kind of in the first place? What was your first memories of maybe mucking around with a bit of cardboard?
Well, when I was a boy, my father took me to a store and he helped me pick out my first board game. No, I'm just joking, that didn't happen. No, you know what? I don't know, like anyone else, board games were around. Honestly, I wasn't trying to get into the board game industry or hobby or anything. I was trying to make a video game.
Okay.
And it didn't work out.
What was the video game called?
Well, it was called High Moon.
All right, okay.
You can look up like a trailer for it on YouTube. I was working for an app company. I wanted to make my own app. I ended up losing my job. Well, like the whole company crumbled. And then I was like, well, I'll make a game. And then one thing after another, it just didn't work. And I was like, ugh, this is terrible. And I'd always kind of made like my own card games before, just for fun, like pen and paper RPGs with friends, because we weren't smart enough to, I don't know, play D&D or something.
Yeah.
But, so I was like, well, maybe I can make it into like an actual card game. And that's what I started doing. That's how I got into it. And then, I just kept going with it.
So is there games that what kind of games have kind of crossed the table in the last couple of years that you've kind of enjoyed?
Well, every time I do an interview or like a written one, people ask me that. Like, well, what's your favorite game and everything like that. I don't actually play a lot of board games. So there's going to be some kind of angst happening for every listener right now.
They'll get over it. So, I just have to say, listen, sometimes people go outside. They don't take tables with them, and they don't take board games with them. They just
whoa. Well, I don't go outside. Let's not go crazy. No, I love board games. I just don't have an opportunity to play them often. But I really liked Smash Up. That was a fun one that I've played in the past. I just backed Giant Killer Robots. That was like such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. I don't care if it's good. I just want to play with the minis.
Just the really, really big robots just stomping about. And you could do all different types of things with that. Like old Transformers could probably fit into that rule set.
Yeah, maybe.
I reckon there's a whole pile of stuff. People are just going to buy that. It's going to be like Dark Souls. People are going to buy it for the minis just because they're going to like to have little robots. They're not really little, are they? They're quite substantial size.
They're amazing. Yeah, pre-painted minis. Yeah, they're a wonderful thing. I don't like just like tables of gray minis everywhere. I know some people like to paint them, and I've painted my own in the past, but I don't know, just a pre-painted one out of the box is wonderful.
So I mean that they're doing the unusual thing that they're actually, if you want to get unpainted, uncustomized minis, you have to pay more for it.
Yes.
So I guess it's kind of like they must have a production line, and for them to not paint something is costing them more money than I guess to get it kind of all kind of sorted out.
Maybe. I think the unpainted ones are like an add-on. They don't come in the box.
No, you have to. Yeah. I think you have to jump up a tier in order to kind of get them as well. In terms then, if with you must have concentrated a lot on the kind of the art side of things. So have you? I mean, have you been drawing as long as you've been able to kind of hold a pen, or is it something that you've kind of gradually got into over the years?
No, well, yeah, no. I always love art and drawing. I always have, for sure. Mm-hmm. I don't have a profound answer. Yes.
I looked up at the sky, and a pen floated down from the sky, and it landed in my hand. And I knew from that day forward that I was destined to draw, for pleasure and eventually for business. This is my story. Nothing like that then, no.
No, I wish it was.
Well, you could do that. You could tell future people, because that would be cool. You could just pass that out.
I can lie pretty well, so we'll see what happens at the next dinner party.
Did you, I mean, were you, when you talked about earlier on about designing your own little games and stuff like that, were you the guy that was doing the drawings for it? Or, I mean, when did you first kind of start to think that, you know what, I can take this skill and actually, do something with it and create something kind of more tangible, I guess, than kind of like a video game, I guess? Well,
I mean, like when I was making my little pen and paper RPGs, it was just, I don't know, it was fun. It was like, sometimes, writers get writer's block and artists get artist block. Like, I don't know what to draw, but like having this game, I like always had something to draw for the game. So it always like really funneled, I don't know, the art passion. There's always something to draw on there. And then, I wanted to become a movie director.
Oh,
and I lived in California for 2 years, and then when I got back home, I went to look at like colleges that were open for art directors, movie directors, and they're all full. I was like, oh man, what am I going to do with my life? And I was watching an animated film, The Prince of Egypt, and I was like, man, I could like draw and whatever. I didn't realize how difficult animation was, but then I went to school for animation.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, yeah, I can be an artist.
So how long did you go to school for animation though for? Did you come out with your diploma, degree type thing?
Yeah, it's called an advanced diploma. I don't know what that means, but it was a 3-year program. And yeah, we learned like everything from like video editing. Like you'll see on like the Grimslingers Kickstarter page, like I made the video.
Yeah.
They taught us classical animation, anatomy, 3D modeling, and all that stuff. Excuse me. So it was like a lot of things.
Okay. So what kind of propels you from going to thinking about playing games from drawing stuff? I mean, did you obviously continue the drawing, you've continued the art, and you've moved towards you're making a career out of it. But what was the decision that made you decide, actually, I can make a kind of a card game, board game out of this? How did that all come about?
Well, when I was trying to make the app and it didn't work out, I'm a guy who doesn't like giving up. And I really wanted to make like my own games. It's just like I can't avoid it. Like if I have like a free moment in my mind, it like goes to like, you could make this game. And it's like, yeah, I could. So with the card game, I came across this thing called the Game Crafter. It's like a website where you kind of like upload your assets and then you can just like buy a copy of your game.
Yeah,
I was like, that's cool. I could do that. So then I started like trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And figuring out like how do you actually design cards and like printing them out so they don't look terrible, that stuff. That's going where it started. The Game Crafter.
And what was the first kind of, I mean, I take it Grimslingers just didn't appear out of nowhere. I mean, was there other games that you kind of put together that are now maybe nestling in a little tiny box somewhere, kind of never getting the light of day? Or I mean, do you have a lot of boxes kind of hanging about your department with like different types of games just sitting there? Maybe ones that might actually come out again.
No. Well, I mean, there's this one game that I've been working on with my friend since I started making games, and it that's like we've just made a million different versions of it. Mm-hmm. With Grimslingers, I started out with something like really small. And then it changed a bit. Originally, it was like Elemental Duels. Then it was High Moon. Mm. Then it was Grimslingers. And it was all different kinds of things. Like it was a minis game at one point. It was like a turn-based attack defend. And then eventually to what it is today. So there are many various copies of like what Grimslingers used to be.
Do you keep them? I mean, the ones that you do have, are they very, very precious? Do you ever look at the old stuff that you've done? You ever play about with the old stuff that you've done, or do you just kind of resign it to the back?
The minis version is definitely one that I'm going to try and resurrect somehow, because it was pretty cool. It was the most fun addition. I just didn't go with it because I couldn't make a minis game by myself.
All right, okay. Did you use
just cards? Did
you use minis from other places then? Is that what you did? Did you kind of customize them, or did you get minis actually properly made?
No. I just like I had minis lying around for like Warhammer and stuff.
Ah, cool. Okay. So you just got out with a knife and just like trimmed this off, and you don't need your arm, and you need an extra leg here, and you stuck glued kind of all different kind of bits to it. Yeah.
What do you think Grimslingers looks like?
I think, it's the artwork on Grimslingers is stunning in two ways. It's stunning because you have the kind of the normal, typical people that you would potentially expect to see on the front cover of a board game or a character of a board game, and then you've got something like a Siamese cat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of striking and it's different, and it kind of draws your eyes to it.
Contrast, yeah.
Is that a conscious decision? I mean, when you're looking around at did you look around at other projects that were out there at the time when you were looking at the kind of the art direction you were wanting to go for Grimslingers?
Well, with Grimslingers, it was like, I didn't go to school for illustration. Yeah. So I had to like figure out how to become an illustrator, and like when I was designing like the game, like I knew I couldn't do Magic the Gathering illustrations. So if you look at like the spell cards for Grimslingers, they're like these weird orb things. They look cool, but that was born out of the fact that like I can't do what I want. I can't show this picture of this cool cowboy blasting somebody.
Yeah.
So what else can I do? And with the actual illustrations, you'll notice most people are just kind of like sitting there. Yeah. There's not really any action scenes.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like, well, if I could try and do an action scene, but I don't really know how. Yeah. I mean, I could do it today, but it takes way more time. And I found that as I was doing that, I discovered that it made my art stand out in a way that people weren't used to. People were used to like your typical high fantasy like battle scene, and it's all well composed. Not that any of that's bad. It's just they're familiar with it. You don't really blink an eye at it too much.
No, I mean I'm used to people being covered in ice. I'm used to people being, covered in fire. I must admit, I wasn't used to seeing a chicken.
Yeah,
but we'll kind of get around to that. But I mean, that was, again, it's just one of those kind of unusual things. For, I guess, okay, one of the things we like to do on the show at We're Not Wizards is to introduce people to games themselves. Now, people will be saying, okay, Grimslingers, let's go and check it out. But for people who haven't had the chance or haven't, been exposed to the game before, what's the game about? Do you want to explain a little bit about the game itself, a little bit about the mechanics, kind of introduce it to the good people out there?
Yeah, I would love to. So, Grimslingers is really two games in one. You have one game where you're dueling your friends, and another game where you're playing either by yourself or with your friends going on an adventure. And the dueling portion of the game gets sucked into the cooperative as the combat, and then there's the whole adventure on top of that. And the premise of the game is that you are a Grimslinger. This mysterious being called the Iron Witch, who's a robot, has abducted you or made some kind of deal with you. Depends on the Grimslingers. You can read their bios. And he's forcing you to do certain things. First, he's forcing you to train with the other Grimslingers. That's the PvP or versus portion. And then he's like, okay, now you know how to use your spells and fight. Now go out into the Forgotten West, which is this place that you're in, and go do these things that I need you to do. The first thing he asks you to do is to hunt down a giant magical T-Rex. And so it's all very strange and bizarre. And
you just hear all of a sudden, hundreds of people's ears just pricked up and went, hunting a T-Rex?
Yeah.
In a fantasy game?
So I love Grimslingers is all like about mashing things together. I like, mashups, and so, I love dinosaurs, so I put dinosaurs in. I love robots, they're robots. And so anything that I enjoy, I just put in there. And it works. If you play the game, it works well.
You haven't got like Calvin and Hobbes kind of T-Rexes and F-15s kind of thing.
Well, not quite like that.
Not quite.
Not yet, anyway.
You just like you're just sitting there scoring that out. Yeah, but anyway, go on. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the way it actually plays is it's a kind of a game that's very fast paced. I like really simple games. I wouldn't say it's like as simple as Love Letter, but it's fairly straightforward. You're gonna have 3 phases. You have the standoff where you prepare your spells and stuff. You have the draw where everyone is picking their spells and they're playing them face down, and then at the same time everyone reveals, and then based on the speed of your spell you resolve it. And so it's kind of like when you reveal you shout draw, and everyone's kind of firing off their spells and stuff, so it's cool that way. And there's all kinds of trickery like deduction and like figuring out what they might play. There's a rock paper scissors element. Everyone has the same 6 elemental spells, and they interact with each other in different ways. And then on top of that, you have items that you can scavenge for and pick up. And then you also have like archetype classes, and you have signature spells. Signature spells are like just unique to you. Like if you have it, no one else does. And they do crazy stuff. Like it could be like every card that does damage now heals, and every card that heals now does damage.
Ah, right. Okay.
So, yeah, it's about fun and, trying to trip people up and kill them. Then the adventure is like there's a story that you're working through. You're leveling up. You're acquiring loot, which are the items. And, it's kind of a linear story. There's not a whole lot of choose your own adventure in the core game. In the expansion, there's a lot more. But it's quite a spectacular or weird story.
There's that combination again. It's spectacular and weird.
Mhm.
When you put out the first, when you put Grimslingers out first of all, was that that was a couple of years ago now, was it?
Yeah,
When?
it's probably 2 years.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because at that time, were you just by yourself at that point? Were you with?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was by myself. That was tough, but
Yeah, I mean, how did you get on with the? Because did you organize the Kickstarter completely yourself, put it out there completely yourself, fulfilled it and everything like that? So
yeah. So I didn't fulfill the Kickstarter because Greenbrier picked it up and then they took over fulfilling the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Which was sweet because I didn't really want to do it. And it's the least fun part.
Yeah.
But like even this Kickstarter now, I'm basically the one running it and doing everything in the updates and managing the community too.
Uh-huh.
And it's nice that Greenbrier lets me do that. But yeah, I did all the things, the marketing ads and everything.
Was that kind of working at the same time as well? Did you have to take time out from a kind of like a job while you worked on the first kind of Grimslinger campaign?
Well, the thing is, I didn't really make any money at that time in my life.
Oh, right, okay.
I lived with my mom, which
Right.
gave me the opportunity to kind of like not make too much. I was also selling, like designing pop culture t-shirt designs with my cousin.
All right, okay.
And then I stopped doing that to just like do Grimslingers. So that was nice.
When did it, I mean, did you say you didn't make any money out of Grimslingers then, or you weren't making any money at the time?
Yeah, with even like the Kickstarter, I didn't make any money considering how long it took to do.
Yeah.
I think it was like maybe a couple grand, but that was like, I don't know, I put 2 years of my life or something into it, so.
Yeah. But I mean,
didn't pay out.
but the game itself was kind of well received. I mean, it's obviously warranted enough so that you've gone into the expansion side of things, which
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the expansion and what that's all about?
Oh yes, I do. So the interesting thing about the campaign in the core game is that like that was never originally a part of Grimslingers. It was just the dueling portion, and like I told you, I always made pen and paper RPGs.
Yeah.
And then I really wanted to make like an adventure game. I just didn't think I could successfully do it. And then the campaign was going and it was like really successful. And I was like, all right, well, we can have like a solo co-op thing. And people bought it, like they bought into it. But I literally had nothing designed. It was just kind of like, it's going to be kind of like this. And I thought it would work.
Yeah.
But it didn't. My idea did not. So Greenbrier, like, they picked it up and I said, there's this whole solo co-op portion.
Yeah.
And it's not done or designed. And they're like, okay, well, it's all right. We'll still sign it and you can just get it done. I was like, okay. And, luckily, I'm not an idiot and I managed to successfully design like a really compelling adventure. I think that's everyone's favorite part. So I also had very little time. So like, it's not a very long campaign. It's good, but it's like, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends like really open-ended. And so it was just kind of like a taste of like what we could start getting into with Grimslingers. And so the expansion is now like, all right, now we're getting into it. And there's way more solo co-op content. And the way that it works is like I redid the map system. So it's got like randomized map generation with this deck of playing cards, which was done. Designs were done by Noah Whippy, and then I rendered them to look fitting for the game, and they're really cool. And so like you'll have like an area. So you're going into the Valley of Death, and it'll be like, all right, here's what the layout looks like. Here's the cards you need, face up, face down, and randomly picked. And then you kind of move around, and you flip over cards, and different things are happening. And the story now is going to kind of give you options of which route you take. You're always going to end up kind of in the same spot, but you'll learn slightly different bits of lore and whatever by different paths you take. So, I mean, that's an important thing. A lot of people want to like I don't know, save the world or destroy the world. That's just not ever going to happen with, like, the player's not going to decide how the story ends. Like, I'm telling a story, and they're kind of playing along with it.
Yeah.
But I still want people to feel like they have choices and can kind of take different routes. So, in the expansion, there's more creatures. There's a whole new leveling system based around not just like killing stuff. It's like achievements. So it's like accomplish this difficult task in this certain part of the map, and then you get points for that, which you can use to buy skills and whatever.
Yeah.
So there's way more character designing on the player part. What else is there in it? There's, I don't know, all kinds of cool stuff, but it's really fun. It's so much better. New creatures. There's legendary items. So like each area has like a hidden treasure chest and a hidden key, and you gotta find them, and then you get a legendary item. Yeah, it's really cool. It'll be lots of fun.
Have you got? I mean, is this the first of many expansions? Has, I guess, Greenbrier saying, right, we'll help take care of this for you. Has that kind of opened your eyes to other things you could be doing with the, I guess, getting towards being a little bit of a franchise, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, no, it really is, because there's a story to tell and people want to hear the end of it. And, I think the dueling aspect will only go so far in terms of new expansions, but definitely like the story and expanding on it. And like with the Northern Territory, I'm also trying to create something where fans can start creating their own campaigns.
Yeah.
So like this expansion is the Northern Territory, so it's like a huge block of area that people can start like writing stories within it. And there's the Northern Territory, East, South, West, and then there'll be Black Eden and other stuff. So there's a lot that I want to do.
Have you already got kind of notes? Have you got it kind of planned out in your head about where you'd like to go and what you'd like to do?
Yeah. There's a really cool story that is going to take a little while to tell by necessity.
Is it It's not a George R.R. Martin type 18 book.
No,
18 book kind of keep them going kind of tale.
No.
I mean, with it being, with you being in your world building here, and you mentioned earlier on about like a minis game. Is there scope for you to take the world of the world that you've set up with Grimslingers and kind of make a little mini game kind of going forward, or a dexterity game or a resource management game? Is there that type of thing that you've got the scope to do as well?
Well, you mean like a Euro style?
Yeah, just
I
chucking
guess
it.
like probably not that. Probably not a dexterity game. But like the minis, like I said before, it used to be a minis game, and I think it could pretty seamlessly become a minis game. It just needs some extra rules for how creatures behave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like minis, but if I made them, I'd really want it to be like pre-painted, and I hear that's really tough.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're Weta Studios, and apparently it's cheaper to provide painted ones than it is to provide unpainted ones.
The other option is like,
yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No. I was
gonna say the other option is just like standees, because that way you get like full art.
Yeah.
And it's still kind of moving around. I think people generally look down on standees, but like as an artist, like I don't just like gray models.
Yeah, I mean that's because there's one of the friends at the show now is Frank West, and he has got his Kickstarter coming out called City of Kings, and he is doing standees, and it's an adventure game. It's a tile.
I saw that. That's what gave me the idea.
Yeah, and it's so there you go. But yeah, I mean, his is all about standees, and it is because the artwork that he's using. I really like the artwork for the game, and it's done in a particular style. And sometimes, if you put that into a mini, you sometimes kind of lose the kind of the style, I guess. Yeah,
and you totally would for Grimslingers. Like, you wouldn't have the glowing eyes and like it's always got this like motion with ash and everything, and the minis would be cool. And there are minis on the Kickstarter, and they're cool, but it's not the same as an illustration.
No, and I can't imagine. I mean, the little kind of is it the red panda or red raccoon?
Yeah, Red Panda.
Yeah, I can't imagine him as a mini.
You can't. It wouldn't look as
kind,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, he wouldn't look as cool, would he? Or
You
the
could have his
Siamese
card
cat.
there, I guess.
You could, yeah, but give them the option, give them the standees or give them the minis, and then let them, and then
That's
I don't
true.
know, get them painted up and everything like that. I mean, how much involved? Did you do all of the art for everything to do with Grimslingers?
Yes.
And to help everybody appreciate how long it takes to do a fantastic looking picture, how long does it take you? I mean, how long in terms of labour? Let's go back to the Red Panda. How long did it take you to kind of put that together? Now, don't say 5 minutes and make me look like a fool.
It was 5 minutes, man. No,
It was 100. It was 147 days.
well, I will say that at this point, when I first started doing the illustrations, it took me a long time.
Yeah.
I'd say like 3 days.
Yeah.
And like if anyone who's listening has seen Grimslingers Duels, it comes with 4 Grimslingers
Yeah.
that have a very different art style. Not very different, but different art style than the core game. It's a lot flatter. There's less going on. Those are the ones that took me 3 days. And the ones in the core game took me much less. Because as an artist, like you get smarter and faster and better. So like the Red Panda, at this point, he took me, I don't know, probably like 6 hours.
That's pretty cool.
But I have my own ways of cheating and like now that I have an established look, it's like, okay, I'm just throwing this thing on here and that thing, and like I know what I'm doing. So, but if somebody's like, well, I need a cartoon, this or that takes me a while longer because I don't have an established workflow.
Do you? I mean, is it all digital drawing that you do? Do you do hand painted stuff? What kind of medium do you work in?
Yeah, I just do digital. I'm the kind of guy who likes to erase a lot. If you ever looked at my actual drawings, there's like a million erase marks. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
I'm just trying to get the claw on his right paw, and I just can't get it again. You've almost rubbed the screen so much that it's gone through the actual electronics within the kind of the tablet itself.
Mm-hmm. With the digital, it's so forgiving. And it lets you cheat in a lot of ways. So I like to do a lot of photo bashing and stuff, just fast. Okay. Which if you're into that, you just gotta be careful about what you're photo bashing.
That's a warning, kids. Be careful when you photo bash. Always photo bash responsibly.
It's true though, and generally it's more for like I don't know, like film concept artists photo bash a lot because like they're not really going to show the art to anyone or sell it. No, it just lets you get the idea across. I think it's probably why people are, I don't know, stricken by the art of Grimslingers because it has like kind of this photo-esque quality, like they pose for a picture kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it has like that illustrative look to it.
I mean, you've got the kind of the. I mean, I do love this Red Panda, but I mean, even the cat looking majestic, and the dog just looks amazing. He's not kind of like got puppy dog eyes. He's gonna go, I'm gonna burn a hole in your head if I look at you. Kind of the long way. How did you come up with the ideas for that? I mean, that's the most stupidest, cliched, ridiculous question I could ask. Oh my goodness.
I think it's a fine question.
It's just
it's a question that must be repeated.
It is, but you're probably going to go, wow, this is fantastic. What I do is I flick through the dictionary of animals and I stop and pick them at random, and then I just go ahead and draw them. No,
so no, I'm sorry. That was a terrible idea.
All right, okay.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
So the question is fine, but the ridiculous idea isn't. Okay, I see that.
Yeah. So how it works.
Okay.
What we're talking about, how I come up with the ideas?
Yeah, that'll do.
So for the original 10 Grimslingers in the core game, those are actually backers who were like, I want to make a character. I was like, okay, cool. I thought they were going to choose like cool stuff. Like on the Kickstarter, I had like a picture of like a raccoon in a cowboy hat cast in magic. I was like, let your imagination run wild. And then everyone was like, I just want to make a picture of myself. I was like, okay. So then I had to try and work with them to like make it a little more creative. Yeah. So like with the cat, the guy wanted his girlfriend. Uh-huh. And that's sweet and whatever, but it doesn't make for a good game character.
No.
Well, some of them actually did, like, they wouldn't budge, so that's what I did. Like, Daniel and Shanti are their boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't think they're married. But I did the best I could with what they would let me do.
Yes.
With the cat, I was like, well, a bunch of other people are doing their girlfriends, whatever. It'd be really cool if it was like, I don't know, an animal or something. It's like, well, I have this family Siamese cat that, we really love. His name is Nuno. And we could do that. I was like, all right, yeah. And then with the dog, and then that was kind of it. And I just came up with the rest of it and his story and everything.
Yeah.
With the dog, that was Tony Galati, and he wanted his son. And I thought in the end that would be kind of weird in the setting where, like, in the story, people are drinking and killing and swearing. And it was like his little son. Like, he seemed fine with it, but I was like, well, can we do something else? He's like, well, I have a family dog that's a Dachshund. I don't know how you say that word, Dachshund.
That'll do. Yeah, that's. I don't know how to pronounce it either. It could be anything.
Dachshund.
Okay. Somebody will say it's actually Spaniel. You're just pronouncing it wrong. Thanks for that.
So with that one, I did his dog, and I just thought, like, I don't know, what would make the dog look cool? Like, I'll just give him a sword. I love swords. And it's like, how is he going to hold a sword? So, like, it really doesn't make sense. But if you look at the picture, he kind of has, like, hands. And
all right.
His legs are kind of weird. Like, he looks like he could stand on his hind legs. Yeah. So, same with the cat. Like, if you look at the cat, it actually has opposable thumbs. It's just hard to see.
Could you imagine the devastation that cats could get up to if they had opposable thumbs?
Well, we have raccoons. They kind of give us a good idea.
Yeah, I suppose. They're kind of like friendlier than cats.
Yeah.
I always think the difference, somebody always said, what the difference between a cat and a dog is? It's like if you were alone and you died in your house and you had a dog, the dog would sit there and mourn and cry and whine until somebody came along and found you. And they said, and the cat would eat you.
Yes.
You wouldn't have time to cool before the cat was kind of like burrowing away to find your in your liver.
Those sassy cats. So I do want to talk about the Red Panda.
Yes, yes.
So I generally just try and think of, like, what is going to be, like, what would I find interesting to see? What haven't I seen before? So I was actually trying to make a raccoon. Because, like, raccoon, Wild West. He's, like, crafty. He looks kind of like a bandit,
Yeah. The only problem with raccoons now is you've got that flipping Guardians of the Galaxy, so anybody...
It's true. So it would have probably looked like...
people will look at that and go, why you copied Rocket in your card game? And you're just like, right, okay.
At that point, you just say it's an homage. Which is what I often do.
It's a homage.
Yeah. And... So I was looking at raccoon pictures, and I say a photo bash, and I'm trying to find some good raccoon pictures, and then I change them up a bunch. But they weren't. I couldn't find any that like really did it for me. And then a red panda is sometimes called a red raccoon, and I saw this picture of a red panda, and I was like, dang, these guys are like really cool looking. They just have such contrast with the red, the black, the white, and they're like bear thingies. I don't know. They're really crazy looking. So I just went with a red raccoon. And I was like, what would make him look cool? Like, well, let's make him like he's just tired of everyone's crap. And smoking a cigarette, just like wild, outrageous stuff. That's hard to forget. Like, everyone remembers the raccoon with the eye patch and the cigarette in his mouth. It's like that painting of the dogs playing poker. Like, it's so bizarre that it's hard to forget.
But red pandas just generally look quite annoyed because they've kind of got the red cheeks And then they've got the grey. It's like Red Panda disapproves of everything you've ever done in your life, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, Red Panda doesn't care if he has a cigarette. You know, there's
Yeah.
you know, this is me. You could turn this into kind of like a big meme city competition, but yeah, I mean the difference between the other thing is as well as raccoons are just like grey and black.
Yeah.
You've got the striking redness of the red panda, which is kind of fantastic.
It's true. It's true. I like that.
He's kind of wonderful. Then you've got the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just decide to, we've gone 1 through the alphabet, we'll just go back the other way through the alphabet?
Well, chickens are like, I feel like they're very iconic of like the Old West. Like there's chickens running around and stuff. Yeah. They're silly. Like the movie Moana, it's got the chicken. It's just, I don't know. Chickens are silly. And I like the idea of, this is a character I had designed a while ago before I actually did the art, was Henrietta the chicken. I thought it was clever. Henrietta, she's a hen, chicken. And it's very funny. But
you're not going to listen back to this bit and cringe.
So I like to think of characters that I could tell a cool story about. So Henrietta, she's this chicken. Icarus, the Iron Witch, he experimented on animals first, like that kind of psychopathic thing, and then he went to humans. And he just didn't care about this chicken, but he ended up making this chicken really smart, and she became this really powerful witch, but no one takes her seriously. And I just felt like I could tell this kind of classic female story, at least from my perspective, of like not being taken seriously and being underestimated constantly, but she's actually like insanely skilled. And so that's what her skills represent. Like she's this amazing witch. And, plus a chicken in a witch hat is pretty cool.
Chicken in a witch hat is very cool, and the fact
it's kind of my homage to Final Fantasy with their chocobos.
Ah, right, yeah, I can see that, but I mean, I just really like. I kind of like. I'm a bit of an art kind of fanboy. I mean, the other game. Well, it was probably the game before you got involved with Greenbrier was Heavy Steam.
Yes.
Which I really liked the kind of the artwork on that, and that was a good fun game. And then you've got the last guy. You've got the little. Is this a crow?
There's a crow, yeah. So the crow is not its own character. Henrietta actually turns into the crow. Oh, and right. Like I was going, I had Henrietta playing. I was sitting there and. I was like, would I want to play a chicken? Like, no. Like, a crow is like, who doesn't think a crow looks cool?
Yeah.
I was like, but I really like the idea of the chicken. I feel like women will really like the chicken.
The chicks like chickens.
They do, though. The girls really do like the chicken. And they like the crow and Red Panda, too. But
the Red Panda's a given. I mean, yes. Even though he does look slightly annoyed, he's like kind of Kurt Russell in True Grit.
Yeah, he also looks like Solid Snake, kind of.
Yeah, there is that as well. Kind of thing. You expected David Hayter. Have you put a voice to him in the video, or have you not bothered?
No.
That would be cool.
So with the crow, I was like, okay, I don't know to do the chicken or the crow, so I'm going to do them both. And then I was like. The chicken looks really sweet, so I'm going to stick with it. But this crow also is really sweet, so I just gave her a skill where she could turn into a crow. And I don't know, it's just cool. It's just a cool thing. Like, turns into this magic spell crow thing. She's not the chicken anymore. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Does it change the kind of the skill set and her skills and things like that as a character?
It makes her spells more powerful. Because the ether, quote, air quotes, respects crows more than chickens, so it's more willing to endow a crow with power over the chicken.
That's just, chickens lot. Chickens just can't get a break.
Yeah. I know.
In terms of the campaign itself, there's a bit of a buzz about it. as in it's funding. You're hitting stretch goals, you're now. You've 14 days to go, so you've got a decent amount of time going, and you've basically trebled what you were after in the first place. You're set. Well, at this point in time, it being the 23rd of March 2017, you are sitting at $67,000, of a target of 20,000. So, has that been a surprise to you? A pleasant surprise? Is it? Is it what you kind of expected?
It's what I expected. I probably shouldn't say this, but the Kickstarter game is you never ask for what you actually need. Because people want to reach success quickly, and then they feel like, it's successful, and then it gets this kind of momentum, and then you unlock stretch goals. Now, most people, say, what's a good game? Rising Sun. That's a game where, they knew they would get a lot, and they had all of this art done for all these stretch goals and all these minis for these stretch goals. So obviously they knew ahead of time what they were getting to. They're not going to waste, thousands and thousands of dollars on art that they're never going to use.
Yeah.
You'll see with Grimslingers, we're doing really well. I didn't have the art for the Red Panda stretch goal done. It's okay, we're doing good. I got to make some art now. It wasn't all ready beforehand.
Yeah.
Because you just couldn't afford to do art for something that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But other companies do. So I believe very strongly in Grimslingers in that with Greenbrier's audience and extra help that it would reach a lot more. So that doesn't mean I'm not super happy it's doing as expected. I expect it to probably go to 100, 120.
Yeah. Do you have all the stretch goals kind of planned out in your mind then, ready to drop them?
Yeah, I do. We have a number shown. We have a couple shown already on the page. Yeah. But I'm not currently planning on going past 120 with stretch goals. Because at a certain point, I told everyone, this is not art related really, but I don't want to do any stretch goals that are going to increase the amount of development time needed. And at a certain point, when you want to add more stuff, you can only upgrade components so much, and then you got to add more gameplay, and that adds more development time because you want that gameplay play tested. And if you play test it prior, we know we're going to hit this, and so we already designed this thing and it's well play tested. But I can't do that. I can't be secretly I knew I was going to get 100K, and I had already finished this entire gameplay mode and play tested it months prior.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea, and it's something that's bitten Greenbrier in the butt in the past. With Folklore, they added so many things in stretch goals.
Yeah.
That it was oh crap, now we're never going to reach our targeted delivery date.
No, I've seen that. I've seen that so many times now. I think I've seen it with games, with even creators that have been involved in that they've had to send the "we're very sorry" kind of email update out where they say that, they go in and say, right, okay, we're going to be aggressive with this. We've got the files ready to go, and as soon as the campaign finishes and we know exactly what we're playing with, then those files will be sent off to the printers.
Yeah.
And then they start hitting stretch goals left, right and centre, and then it's a case of people are saying, well, your last stretch goal was 85k, you're now sitting at 115k, what else are you giving the kind of the people that have backed you? Yeah. And it's almost like there's a pressure to keep...
There totally is.
Yeah. Do you think this is because of the bigger guys out there that, have kind of the next kind of... Well, they've got the stretch goals planned out to the hundreds of thousands, even to the millions, that puts pressure on guys like yourself that, well, you're getting a game and the game's going to be fantastic and we're going to be able to get the best components ever. Do you feel under pressure to sometimes add in stretch goals for the sake of having them?
Absolutely, yeah. No, the big companies definitely change people's perspectives. and people know it, and I don't think they care too much.
Yeah.
It's like they become to expect a certain thing. Like,
Yeah.
I want free stuff. That's what I want, and you got to give it to me. You guys are getting all this money,
Yes.
and it's not enough that I'm getting a game that I want to get. I want to get that and more because someone else is giving you money, and therefore you need to give me more free stuff. It actually doesn't make any sense, but it might if they were sharing the campaign a lot. I'm a little ornery about it. Ornery.
No. I mean, Jamie Stegmaier said there comes a point in a campaign where it doesn't matter how much extra money you get for the campaign. The cost of material gets to a point it can't decrease anymore with you. You can't ask for more discount from your manufacturers, yeah? You can't go to a manufacturer and say, you know how I wanted 1,000 neoprene mats? Well, I need 1,500. And it's like, well, that's fine, but they're still kind of, there's still $5 to make each in the size and the cuts that you want. Because you're not breaking into the kind of like the hundreds of thousands, so you're doing quite well. Do you feel there's pressure to kind of be up there with the big guys?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard not to like constantly look at those campaigns and be like, yeah, I did raise 67,000, but they raised 2 million. So, and we're running at the same time in our game. It's not like the game's better than mine. So it's like it's like a weird value estimation of like, are we doing well? We are. I mean, like we are, but like it's also so apparent that we're not doing as well as somebody else. And obviously, there's, you shouldn't compare your campaign to others. I'm gonna be able to make the game that I want to make.
Exactly.
And we have the money to make it and to make it a little cooler than before. And I do want to say, like, for any backers listening, I'm not upset about stretch goals or anything. I love when people share the campaign, and it's nice. It is sometimes weird when people have a perspective of like, it's not enough to get the game. It's not enough for me to just pay for the game, and I don't know. I find it weird, but it is what it is, and I'm cool with playing the game, like playing the stretch goal game.
No, that's cool. That's cool. With since you did kind of the first iteration or the version of Grimslingers, have you seen a change in the way that, as you being art director now at Greenbrier, have you seen the kind of the quality of art having to kind of jump up quite a notch in the last couple of years in terms of Kickstarter quality?
I think there's a higher standard. Yes. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like before on Kickstarter, you could, like way back in the day, you could have a pretty crappy game. Like that was the Game Crafter. Like the Game Crafter were all these really awful looking games. They're probably good games, but they were funding. But like, I don't think that would work now by any means.
I mean, do you look at games? I could take it and looking at other kind of Kickstarter campaigns. Have you looked at that and went, that's amazing, or have you looked at it and went, well, that I would do that differently?
There's definitely some where I'd be like, I don't like this, but there are others where it's like, I'm jealous they have the resources to do this, and have that kind of art, but part of me is like, like as an artist, knowing that I could do it myself, it's like I don't want to pay someone to do art when I can do it myself, but someone else could probably do it better. Like the Grim Forest campaign that's out right now. Yes, top to bottom is an immaculate Kickstarter, and it must have cost them a fortune in the art.
Yes,
and I'm jealous.
I mean, it's no longer the components of the game, though, is it? I mean, it's the entire campaign itself. You can't get away with, here's a decent looking game that I've made, but the campaign itself has really got to look decent at the same time. There's almost like
there's like a science to a board game Kickstarter now, and it's always interesting. I love looking at people's campaigns to see like how they structured it, where they put things, and how that alters players' perceptions. And there's like 3 different types of people. Like some people watch the video and then back. Some people don't watch the video and they look at, I don't know, like the first couple paragraphs and back. And then there's a person who's looking at everything possible, and they're reading reviews and going on BGG, and then they back. You kind of have to cater to like these 3 different types. It's just an interesting game. You know, like you look at the campaign, the Grimslingers campaign, at the very top, I put this: don't miss out on Kickstarter exclusives. Because, you know, one of the mentalities is if there's no exclusives, there's no point in me getting it now that it's funded. Because now I can just wait until it's retail. It's no longer about kickstarting a game. It's just about, I don't know, getting it. And then why get it now?
Yeah, but, I mean, if the game doesn't fund, then the guy's not going to have enough copies to be able to put it to retail anyway. And look at the other thing.
That's what I was saying. Like, once it's funded, people's ideas change about backing.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, say like Scythe, I mean, when Scythe did phenomenally well, but it did go out to retail, and it was, you know, it went out of, you know, it went out of print immediately almost. It's like Gloomhaven, which is the big industry darling at the moment, which poor old Isaac's having to say, you know, oh, I've run a really successful campaign, but I don't know if he's been a victim of the stretch goals himself, because he ended up producing such a box which is, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of the box, but the Gloomhaven box is huge.
Oh yeah.
And the components in it, there seem to be multitudinous components, and he's saying, guys, I can't do just another print run like that. I know you guys are kind of wanting it and desperate for it, but I think he's running another I think he's talking about another kind of Kickstarter campaign just to allow people to get a copy of Gloomhaven. Yeah. Which is kind of a strange it's a strange place to be in, that you could say, well, my game's so successful, but I've not made enough money here to just go ahead or reorder another kind of 10,000 copies just straight away.
Yeah, no, I mean, a similar thing happened to Grimslingers when it first came out. Nowhere near on the scale of Gloomhaven. But, I mean, they probably printed, I don't know, 5,000 or 7,000 copies or something like that. But Grimslingers was 5,000. And then, like, that sold out so fast, and then people want the game and they can't get it. And then, but it's like, you don't really make enough off the retail to just go and print more. Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Kickstarters out there that kind of will get made, distributed to the backers, and you'll never see another print run of it again, because the guys have just managed to make their money to make the game made and kind of no more, which can be a bit of a shame. If you as you are a man of art, do you have any kind of tips for people who are looking at the kind of the board game scene and saying, I'd like to get involved, you know, I kind of like to get involved in this? What's, you know, would you have any advice for people that are maybe looking to get into the board game art thing?
Sure. Of course I do. I'm a firm believer that if you do something well, eventually people will want to pay you for it. And the thing with today's climate of art and whatever, you have to find a way to stand out. Like, I have never solicited for work as an artist. I put Grimslingers out there, and then people saw it, and were like, hey, do art for my game. And then Greenbrier was like, just be our art director. And, you know.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah, but, you know, and when I became the art director, I was still getting job offers, you know, like weekly. And the thing, in the board game world, there aren't a lot of, like, people who are both good illustrators and graphic designers. In terms of board game graphic design, I'm talking about, like, the card borders and backs. Yeah. Not just the fancy pictures. And if you can do both well, you will pretty much always have people wanting to hire you. The other thing is, like, I just said this on Facebook the other day, don't be the billionth person to draw a fantasy elf and expect anyone to care. Even if it's really... Yeah, draw a red panda. Even if it was really well done, I mean, if it's really well done, people will care. But generally, it's like, okay, another elf. Great. There's a million of those.
Yeah.
Do something like a red panda, or
your inbox is going to get flooded with 1 million red pandas. You realize that?
I hope so. But yeah, just find a way to stand out, and that can be hard. That's probably the hardest thing, is finding a way to stand out. The other thing is just, I mean, when people are hiring you, they're not really trying to stand out. They just, like, they have an expectation of what they want the art to be, and you need to be able to do that. So if you only have one style, that's okay. If you have one style, you got to do it really well, like really well. But if you can also be multifaceted, you know, like I could do cartoons or, you know, whatever, and that really has really helped me to be able to get job offers and stuff. So I would just say to people, don't suck, and find a way to be unique.
Do you think people need to hold off and not, I guess, kind of cheapen themselves in terms of the work that they'll do for the money that's available? I mean, when you were starting out, did you ever get the kind of the, if you do this work for me for free, I'll make sure you get lots of exposure kind of thing?
You know, if you're good enough, like, people will know they have to pay you. I never had an offer that was like, I'll give you exposure. I definitely had, like, lowball offers. Yeah. And that's a hard part of the art industry, is like, you need work, so it's either like you get paid very little or you get paid nothing. And you don't know when the next job's coming. And so, and then there's like people in the Philippines or whatever, they're just like, I don't know if they teach them art from when they come out of the womb or whatever, but they're like amazing and they're fast. Yeah. And they work for nothing. And it's hard, as, you know, someone who lives on the American continent, to meet the standard of living that you have. And, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So anyway.
So, what's next for you then? I mean, obviously, you know, Grimslingers is gonna end up in people's hands.
I'm probably gonna have dinner after this and play Mass Effect Andromeda or something.
With the facial animations.
I'm just gonna play the multiplayer, not the campaign.
All right, okay, that's fine. Anyway. I don't mean in the next couple of hours. Oh.
Well, eventually I'm gonna die.
No, don't say that. Too far ahead. No, that's a bit. We don't want to end this on a dark thing. And that was Stephen S Gibson, who says he's eventually gonna die. And on that cheery note.
So after Grimslingers, like after the campaign kind of thing, what happens? Yeah. So we have 3 months of development time planned out, and then we're going to get on to Champions of Hara. Yeah. So I have 3 months to fulfill all of my promises and play testing, and it's going to be challenging, but I've planned out the art schedule. The wild card is always like play testing, because there's no real way to say like it'll be done by this time. But anyway, we're going to do those 3 months. I'm going to be doing a whole buttload of art. So I'm going to be constantly posting art and making sure the design is great. And then it's going to go into manufacturing for 6 months. And then while that's happening, I'm going to be working on Champions of Hara, which I think will just be called Hara.
And what is that all about? That's
a game by Walter Barber. It was previously successfully funded on Kickstarter, and then Greenbrier picked it up like 3 years ago. They still haven't delivered. Okay. And it is a massive blemish on them. But Walter, I'm going to be doing redoing the art on that one. Because this one it's got like good art. It's got great art and characters, but it doesn't pop. So I'm going to be re-rendering all of the illustrations and redoing the graphic design. Okay. And it's a minis game. It can be played versus or co-op. The co-op is not really like a story. It's more like, I don't know, like a big boss that you're all trying to kill. Okay. And, you know, it's actually a really cool game where there's like all these hexes of like different worlds that have collided, and you move around them, and different like events and monsters pop out of these rifts. And so it's kind of like an adventure game where you're also fighting other players at the same time. I don't know. It's really cool. I like it.
And that's the kind of the next thing that you're
Yeah.
going to be working on. What about your own IP? Have you got a ticket? You've got other things in the pipeline that you've got the more stories to do with Grimslingers. Are you looking at anything else that you might want to get involved in at all? As I say, you mentioned the minigame. Is there anything else that you've thought you'd like to get involved in?
Well, there was I was actually, before I started this expansion, I was designing Grimslingers 2.
Ooh.
And it was just going to be like a completely new game. I ended up changing that game to a different IP, and it is the pinnacle of my abilities as a designer of adventure co-op games. And it is the combat and the way you adventure and leveling up is absolutely like the greatest thing I believe that I can accomplish as a designer. And
wow.
I'm excited to hopefully release that one day. The combat is just like, it's kind of like Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
Right.
Where the creatures know what weapons you have, and like their HP, like their behaviors change. So it's like, if I'm fighting a creature that's stupid, it will react to my grenade differently than if it were intelligent. And I don't know, it's really cool and thematic, and it's about like, it's really about narrative, like building a narrative out of everything.
Yeah.
And so your combat is like, it kind of happens like a narrative. And if you're familiar with Grimslingers, like the creature cards, there is a little narrative that goes with the ability.
Yeah.
It kind of like, is that on steroids? I don't know. That probably doesn't make any sense to anyone. I'm just going to say...
it makes complete sense to you.
It's really cool. It's really, really cool.
And when are you thinking, when's that going to surface then? Is that going to be next year now? Or?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe never.
A work in progress.
Work in progress.
That's always, that's nothing wrong with having something... Well, you know, every artist out there's got something kind of sitting in the background. They say, I've got to get round and finishing that.
Yeah.
So are you going to be working on other... I mean, you've already mentioned you're going to be working on some other Greenbrier games. Is this... I mean, are you going to be working on other kind of stuff that Greenbrier are going to bring out then? Or are you going to be more in the case of, as art director, kind of telling other people what to do?
We haven't gotten to the point, I think, financially where I can hire someone else to do the art. Like, we have someone who does modeling and like stuff that I just can't do. But it would be cool just to be like, hey, you monkey, do art for this game this way. It'd be better if it was an actual monkey that could do it as well.
We're going back to that Red Panda. That's what you're heading to. This is what you want.
I want animal workers.
Stephen S Gibson would like a raccoon, a red panda, a chicken, and potentially a crow to be involved in the next artwork for Greenbrier Games. You'll get on the news. I don't know if it'll be in a good way.
True.
Now,
I will be a part of other projects that they're doing.
That's cool. No, I mean, I guess, are you sitting now kind of thinking, things kind of turned out okay? Are you,
with my life?
Yeah, I mean, you sound excited. You sound kind of contented. Things are going well with the Kickstarter,
Yes. No, I'm actually a very content man, to be honest. I've got a beautiful family. I'm not like rich or anything, but I get to, work on my own games for a living and work on other cool games. So, but I am an ambitious man, so there's always more. More to accomplish.
If people want to keep an eye on the ambitious Stephen Gibson, where can we find you on the interwebs nets going forward? The interwebs nets. If we were looking for you, where can we find you?
I am on Twitter. It's Isaac Black Games.
Okay.
And I'm also on DeviantArt and other stuff like that. I don't know the exact URLs, but
okay,
you can find me around.
We can
sometimes when you whisper my name in the dark of night, I appear.
You have to include the S in the middle in order for it to work. If you just say Stephen Gibson, Stephen Gibson, Stephen Gibson,
you're gonna get some random guy at that point.
It's just going to get some random confused guy turning up and saying, "What you summoned me for?" I'm missing the Bachelorette final.
Oh no! Don't want to disturb that one.
No,
That's
definitely.
very important.
I think that is probably the perfect way to finish.
Yeah, the Bachelor.
Yeah. Listen, thank you very, very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
It's
welcome.
been a lot of fun. There are only a couple of things left to do. The first thing is, if you want to keep an eye on what we're doing, and I still have no idea why so many of you do, you can find us. We're on Twitter at We're Not Wizards. We're on Instagram at We're Not Wizards. We're on Facebook at We're Not Wizards. You can email us, which is magic@we'renotwizards.com or .co.uk. We're on YouTube as well. We have put all of the old... I've not filmed me because I'm not very good looking. But
You need a Red Panda mask.
I'm going to do that, but we do have kind of like, we've put a lot of our old shows on YouTube because apparently that is the thing to do. If you've liked what you heard tonight, and you know Stephen has been an amazing guest, then feel free to jump over to iTunes and maybe drop us a nice little cheeky review. Remember, don't give us a 10 because that'll make our heads big, but don't give us a 1 because that'll make us cry. So give us a 5 because that's in the middle and it's average, and we are decidedly average. There's just a couple more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Stephen?
No, I guess not. I want you to be.
Not. I think we want to be Red Pandas.
Right.
That sounds like the way to go. Stern Red Pandas that go about shaking their heads and grumbling at people while smoking cigarettes. And the other thing to do is to say goodbye. So it is a goodbye from the fantastic, the wonderful, the artistic, the very interesting Stephen S Gibson.
Yes, goodbye everybody. I love you.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll sixes. Check out Grimslingers because there's a little bit of time left to go. And if you like your animals with glowing blue eyes and cigarettes and a good story and a fun game, then, you know, give it a check out. We will put it in the show notes so there are notes to show. But until next time, goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
So want to clap?
No, we don't need to clap. It's the end. Nobody claps at the end of this show.